Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back. You are listening to the Onto Purpose Over Paycheck podcast. And I'm so grateful that you hit that play button. You have followed this podcast and you are walking alongside with me on this journey of leaving the 9 to 5 job to pursue being a life coach or doing your own job where you structure everything for yourself, right? That's what this whole podcast is about. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are glad that you're here. If you haven't already, make sure that you are following this podcast. Make sure that you are leaving a rating. And if you have any questions, put them in the notes so that way I can check them out and then I can reference them in a future episodes coming down the road. So I greatly appreciate you. You really have no idea how grateful I am that you are listening to this, right? And so I really, really appreciate that as well. All right, so in our last episode, we talked about urgency and productivity, urgency and momentum. Today, we're going to talk about working from the wholeness and not really trying to prove ourselves, okay? And so this episode is titled Working from the Wholeness and Not Proving, all right? And this one is going to sit right on the edge of growth. This episode is going to really talk about growth in its terms, but it's going to sit right at the edge of growth. Because for many people who make a shift like I am, okay? For the people who make a shift like I am, the moment things start working, even if it's just a little bit, your old patterns are quietly going to reappear. Your old patterns. Okay, we are creatures of habit. Our old limiting beliefs are going to start creeping in. So those old patterns will quietly start to reappear, right? And what that happens is they need proof, all right? They need proof, and they need you to prove that this was the right choice. They need you to prove that you're capable, and they need you to prove that you deserve what's unfolding. Your old habits, your old patterns, your old thinking, your own limiting beliefs, what they're going to do is they're going to start to reappear. And they're going to need you to prove that this was the right choice. Been there, done that. They're going to want you to prove, are you capable? Been there, done that. And they're going to want you to prove that you deserve what's unfolding. And I'm still going through that process. There's times that I sit and I question, like, man, do I really want to do this? Is this what I really want? Am I worthy of this, right? But if you're not aware of them, that proving energy can slowly start to replace the alignment that you already have, the alignment that you're in. And so, speaking from experience, that has happened several times in the last couple of weeks, right? I started to see things working out. I started to see things work in motion. But then my old patterns, my old thought process, my own limiting beliefs, my own thinking, started to come forward, and it was like asking those questions. It's like, well, was this the right choice? Maybe you need to go back and do something. Are you capable of this, right? That's that imposter syndrome. We deal with that. Am I really who I say I'm going to be? And then, if you start making 10K a month, do you deserve it? Do you deserve it? So those are the old patterns, the old limiting beliefs that are going to come through, that are going to push you. They're going to question you. They're gonna appear because they don't want to be forgotten, right? Here's the problem. When you have to prove, okay, proving rarely shows up as insecurity. Okay? Proving rarely shows up as insecurity, but it will show up as over-preparing, over-delivering, overthinking, and over-committing. Let me say that again. When that idea of proving, it will rarely show up as an insecurity, but mostly it's going to show up as over-preparing, over-delivering, overthinking things, and over-committing, right? That's what's going to happen. And when you start hearing that, and when you start thinking that or feeling it, you're going to start thinking that that sounds responsible and it looks like productivity. But here's the thing. Underneath that, this is the subtle belief. And I've felt this. I felt this. Leaving my job, pursuing master life coach full time, there's times that I found myself over delivering. There's times I found myself overthinking. I haven't really felt myself over preparing or over committing yet, but we're not going to allow that. But I have had this subtle belief come in and say, I need to earn my place here. I've had that happen. I've had that thoughts because of my old patterns coming in that I need to earn my place here. And I'm going to tell you that belief, that limiting belief, does not come from the wholeness. It comes from my old conditioning, right? It comes from my old conditioning that you have to earn, because I have been in the same industry for over 24 years. And there have been times that I have to have busted my ass, all right, to prove that I deserve this next position. And when it doesn't happen, the limiting belief comes and says, see, there you go. You didn't deserve it, right? It's because of, just different mechanisms. And it's not about the other people making those decisions. It's what do I feel about myself? It's about what I feel for myself. So the proving patterns, where do they come from, right? We start to learn at an early state in our life where the proving patterns come from is the following. We learn the proving pattern from performance, right? Promotions, performance. If you perform well, you get a raise. If you perform well, you're considered for a new position. Achievements. Some people work to prove for that accolade. They look for that award. They look for that recognition. And then when it's gone, what happens next? The other part is reliability. Proving pattern comes from the reliability. How reliable am I? And then it's being impressive. I always said that because the human brain loves novelty, we're always in this process of entertaining others because we want to prove to them as well as ourselves, I am worthy. So I have to be impressive, right? We start to internalize the idea that value comes from the output. We need something external to validate that we are legit. That's what happens. We hold on to these performances, achievements, reliability, and this impressiveness. External validation, output outcomes that prove our worthy or our value, right? But the thing is, pattern doesn't just appear because you choose purpose. It waits until the momentum returns. And then it asks you, shouldn't we do more to secure this? We got to do more. We have to do more. We have to prove, we have to get the validation that this is our place. This is what we are supposed to do, right? And because of that, our nervous system gets affected, right? Our nervous system gets affected. And there's a key distinction. Working from proving feels tight, like something is at stake. When I started to move into this position of being a full-time master coach, I started working on the validation. Like, I do my posts here on TikTok. I do my posts on Instagram. I'm over producing material to sell. I'm doing all of that stuff, right? Because I feel that there's something at stake. And I'm feeling that it's a little bit more of a stress and not pressure, right? But when you work from the wholeness, you're more grounded and you belong here already. And I've had to go through that process that I do belong here. I am a master coach. I know my shit. I know what I'm doing, right? I know what I'm doing. So that's coming from the wholeness. And my nervous system has to make that adjustment for me, right? And I'm working with it. When you have this proving energy in this shift, you're going to hear those little voices in your head that are going to say, don't mess this up. Proving energy will tell you, don't mess this up. You mess this up, oh my gosh, you're going to lose it all, right? But when you're grounded and you have this wholeness energy, you're going to have more of those thoughts of saying, I can respond as needed. And that's working with your nervous system. When you're making a shift like this, that's working that nervous system. Okay? I can respond as needed. And you're going to remove that proving energy that don't mess this up. And here's the thing, your body knows the difference. Even when you're trying to rationalize all of this in your mind about the work that you're doing, your body knows the difference. Friends, the key thing to listen, to really tune into 100%, I was going to say 99, no, 100%, you've got to understand how your body is feeling. You have to understand where are you at, the feelings. They speak so much louder than your mind because they have a higher vibration, frequency, and energy. I read this book that is just an amazing book, and so if you're looking for a book to read, it's called It's Not You, It's Your Energy. And let me tell you, I'm starting the second time, I'm rereading it again because I always reread these books at least 5 times because I know there's always more knowledge coming out of it. But in there, it'll tell you that it's not you, it's your energy. And again, it's about that wholeness. It's about, do I have this proving energy or do I have this wholeness energy, and which one am I feeding the most, right? Which one's getting the most attention from me, the most focus, right? So when we're trying to proving is unsustainable because it never feels complete. You're always going to be proving. And even when you prove, you still got to keep going, right? You still got to keep going. The thing is, no amount of success quiets it. The more successful you are of trying to prove to this proving energy, that success is not going to quiet it. Your milestones are never going to satisfy it because you're always going to want more. That's just the human condition. We always want more. So no milestone is going to satisfy it. There's always going to be another bar. There's always going to be another expectation. There's always going to be another internal demand. We live in this world where when you are working for a paycheck, if you're not shifting from yourself to yourself, you're working for this new bar. You're working for this new expectation. You're working for this internal demand. And over time, friend, you're going to get exhausted. That's what happened to me. I got exhausted. I got tired of trying to prove my worthiness. I got tired of proving my worthiness, getting my success, being successful and receiving achievements and recognition and still being overlooked, right? Because it was always a continuous thing. There was always something I needed to do better. There was something I needed to, another expectation or some kind of internal demand that I had to meet, right? And I started to get exhausted. And that's not because the work I was doing was wrong. It's because the motivation is misaligned. I was motivated in different areas. I was motivated in the wrong path that I really wanted to be, right? So I had to make the shift to work from a wholeness, grounded energy. Okay? And what does that look like? Well, working from your wholeness doesn't mean doing nothing. Okay, let me clarify that. When you start to work from the wholeness energy, it doesn't mean doing nothing. It means that you need to start choosing intentionally. You need to start looking at your intentions. You need to rest without guilt. There are times that I will say, man, I should create about another 4 or 5 videos, right? I usually create 1 or 2 videos for my TikTok and Instagram each day. I didn't do anything yesterday, and I'm going to tell you, this is where I felt it. Yesterday, I didn't post a video. And I felt guilty because I wanted to rest. I wanted to just be in the moment. I wanted to spend time with Cody. And I was thinking, and even last night around 10 o'clock, I was like, I still should do a video. I shouldn't be sitting here on the couch watching The Big Bang Theory and relaxing because the guilt felt in, right? It's okay to rest. It's okay to rest without guilt. You say no without justification. If I say no, I don't need to explain, right? And then you need to let the work reflect who you are, not who you're trying to be. And that is what my coach told me. My coach at one time, she said, you need to be your true self in this work, be authentic, show up. She goes, because I'm going to tell you this, when I don't do that anymore, but when you did show up, you were this this person that wasn't really, she goes, it's like the imposter syndrome. You weren't this person that you are when you and I sit on a one-on-one coaching session. This is the real authentic self of you. She says, so you need to just let yourself be, right? Stop trying to be it, reflect who you truly are. And the thing about this wholeness energy is it doesn't rush. It does not grasp. What it does is it trusts that contribution doesn't require self-erasure, right? That's a big word there, self-erasure. Wow, never heard that word before. But it talks about trusting the contribution, right? It doesn't require that you're self-assured, okay? That is the part that when you make this shift, that you're gonna go through some patterns. And it's like I said, sometimes that bar, the expectation, sometimes the expectation is this, is, again, I referenced the song Daydreams. If you've never heard the song Daydreams, you need to listen to it. It is such a great song. It is like my theme song for the year. But basically it says, like, at the very beginning, she opens up with the idea that you are this little kid playing out in the backyard. You are just so imaginative of what you are and who you are. People will look at you and say you're silly, you're cute. But then when you hit 18, you have to have a plan B, right? And then she goes on and says that if you're sitting and daydreaming about the things that you want or the person you want to be, if you daydream it, and it scares the hell out of you, it's worth it. It's worth it. But what happens is because we've been so programmed, we've been so required by our family or society that you have to have this. You have to have this. There's no change to it, right? So the thing about it is when you're working from the wholeness is that if you start to notice that proving, that you have to prove yourself to others or some type of external validation starts to creep back in, you need to pause yourself and you need to ask yourself a question. You need to ask yourself, what am I afraid of losing right now? You ask yourself that question. What am I afraid of losing right now? Because proving usually appears when something finally feels meaning. When you start to notice in your shift that something has meaning to it, proving will appear. And the fear isn't that you're not enough. It's that you might lose what you've begun to build. All right? And you're going to have that creeping because, again, proving to yourself or others, fear will set in, and then it's going to get you thinking that you just might lose everything that you just started to build. Right? The thing about this fear is it deserves compassion. It deserves compassion, but it does not deserve control. You can't let fear control you. Not at all. Right? You can't let fear control you. When you're working from proving, output drives the identity. I am what I produce. Okay? So when you work from proving, output drives identity. I am what I produce. But when you work from the wholeness energy, your identity drives your output. And that's what it's saying to you is I'm creating from who I am. Friends, everything that you attract in life, everything that you try to manifest, every decision that you make comes from who you are. It comes from that energy, right? If you want to say, why do I keep attracting this stuff? You need to stop and look in the mirror and say, who am I? Right? And so when you move to the wholeness identity, the wholeness energy, and you're doing the I create from who I am, that shift will change your energy, your pace, your boundaries, and your sustainability. It's going to make a huge change on that. Your energy, your pace, your boundaries, your sustainability. And the thing is, people can feel the difference, even if they can't name it. You're going to feel it. Remember, feeling is more powerful than trying to recognize something. Your feeling, that energy, vibration, frequency is more powerful then you're sitting there trying to, sometimes you can't even name it, but you can feel it, right? So when we talked about moving from the proving energy to the wholeness energy, when you're leaving your shift of working that 9 to 5 into doing what you want to do, you need to let go of what I like to call the performance loop. You need to let go of what I like to call the performance loop. You no longer need to prove your worth. You no longer need to justify your place. You no longer need to earn rest or belonging, because you are now allowed to let your work be an expression and not a defense. And when you do that, that's when you are working from the wholeness energy. I'm going to go over that again. You have to let go of this performance loop. You no longer need to perform your worth. Okay? You no longer need to justify your place. You no longer need to earn rest or belonging. You are now allowed to let your work be expressive and not a defense. And when you do that, that's when you are working from the wholeness energy and no longer from the proving. Success isn't proving you were right. Success stays aligned with things that grow. If success requires you to abandon yourself, it's too damn expensive. If success requires you to abandon yourself, it's too expensive. Because the wholeness energy asks you, can I keep doing this without losing myself? That's where you're going to find the real measurement. In the work that you're doing. In the choice that you made. In the path that you're creating. Can I keep doing this without losing myself? That is what wholeness energy is going to ask you. And that's where you're going to be able to really, truly measure the work that you're doing. Okay, so in our next episode, we're going to tackle the idea of what aligned effort actually feels like, and how do you recognize the difference between a healthy expansion versus a strain. That's going to be in our next episode here on the podcast, Onto Purpose Over a Paycheck. Okay? If this episode resonated with you, make sure you're following the podcast. Make sure you're leaving a rating. Make sure you're leaving a comment. Or if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I do read, I do check into the podcast. Hell, I even listen to my own podcast on the way to when I'm running errands and doing things in the morning. I do listen to it. So, because I love, it's like I said, a therapy for me. It's my own therapy. So if this resonated with you, or if you're just new tuning in, thank you for pushing that play button, and thank you for joining in on this journey. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share this out. Share this podcast out with friends and families, anyone who needs to hear this, because like I said, it's going on week 3 now, and we are just in the early stages of something big and great that's going to continue to go down the road. Also, don't forget that I do have, if you haven't checked out my link tree yet, it is available. All you got to do is go to the show notes and click on the highlighted link of the title of the podcast. It'll send you to my link tree. I do have 3 ebooks for sale. The first ebook is called Aligned. That is a book that talks about the basics, foundations of the law of attraction and how manifestation works. If you're new to that, that's a great ebook to dive in. It does have reflective learning. It also has journal prompts, and then it also has practical applications that you can put into practice to start building and making that connection with the law of attraction. The second book is called Shift. That one really focuses on the energy, vibration, and frequency of who you are. That one, again, does have great resources in there as well. So it does have like some really good experiments for you to test out, so that way you can start building and understanding how the law of attraction works. And basically, really, Shift is, I probably say, my favorite book, because what it does is it really talks about the energy, frequency, and vibration of who you are as an individual, and it really gives you guidance on how to strengthen that, how to understand it, and how to work with it. All right. And then I do have a 30-day program. It is a self-paced 30-day program. It is also another ebook available for purchase. It is a 30-day program that will guide you. It's called Manifest Like You Mean It. and it has limiting beliefs that we will tackle for the day. It gives you some prompt reading, journal prompts. It also has a coaching corner, and then it gives you some applicable strategies to apply into your day. It is a very, very self-paced 30-day program that you can start at any time. You don't need to wait for a Monday or a Friday. You can start at any time, and that is now available out there. It's an instant download. You don't have to wait for it in the mail. You don't have to wait for it to be emailed. It's an instant download, and that's available for purchase. And again, it's a 30-day program. I'm also having a membership coming up here soon, and that will be available here at the end of January. I'm working on the details and figuring out some things to make sure that I've got everything aligned that I want. So we will have that membership happening there. That is where I'll be doing a lot of more group coaching. And then they'll offer, of course, one-on-one coaching as well. And then we'll have like a lot of master classes. And that one will be very engaging. Like I said, and it's going to be a very intimate group in there. So joining into the membership. And so that'll be rolled out toward the end of January. All right. Okay. Before we end this episode, I want you to know some things. Remember, you don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to prove your worth, friend. You need to start protecting your wholeness. Okay? You need to start protecting your wholeness, that energy. That is more valuable than trying to sit and prove your worth, because you already know what you're worthy of. You are enough, friend. You are worthy. You just need to start protecting your wholeness. Okay? All right, friend, as I always say, I will talk to you on the next episode, and see you soon.